it is a great honor to introduce the Nobel laureate in literature, writer Orhan Pamuk.
In June of 1952, Orhan Pamuk was born into an upper-class family in Istanbul, Turkey. He went through 3 years of secondary education before having a career change from painting to writing. When he was just 23, he followed his heart and became a novelist, leaving his architecture background behind. According to Nobelprize.org, Pamuk's books have been translated into over 60 languages, including Czech, Danish, Japanese, German, French, and English, just to list a few. In 2006, Orhan Pamuk won the Nobel Prize for Literature, one of the most renowned awards an author can receive. My Father's Suitcase was Pamuk's Nobel Prize acceptance speech, and it was presented in Stockholm, Sweden, after receiving this award. The speech describes how before his father's death, he was given a small leather suitcase containing his father's collection of writings. Pamuk was not allowed to open the suitcase before his father's death. In the speech, he says, assuming his usual joking, mocking air, he told me he wanted me to read them after he was gone, by which he meant after he died. Throughout his speech, Pamuk touches upon him and his father's relationship, both of their personal libraries, his opinion on Istanbul, as well as the significance of writing in his life. More specifically, Pamuk underlines the importance of world literature and libraries. According to What is World Literature by David Damrosch, a work enters into the world of literature by a double process. First, by being read as literature. Second, by circulating out into broader worlds beyond its linguistic and cultural point of origin. Pamuk connects his speech many times with the idea of world literature. He mentions that he writes, "Because I want others, all of us, the whole world, to know what sort of life we live and continue to live in Istanbul, in Turkey." He writes to enlighten the people of other countries about the culture, history, and lived reality of Istanbul. He wants to spread awareness through his written literature. Pamuk also mentions a variety of many works from around the world in his father's suitcase. Books from France and America, as well as books in different languages from the 40s and 50s, were carried back by his father while traveling. Along with his speech, many of Pamuk's works also contain several examples of world literature. One work in particular that helps validate the definition of world literature is Pamuk's Snow. Snow also has been translated into many different languages, allowing worldwide circulation. In the essay, Unpacking Pamuk's Library, a dialogue with world literature, Venkat Mani remarks, "It was here, in December 2004, that I reread Snow. It was here, in Wisconsin, that the meaning of snow as phenomenon, presence, and protagonist became clear to me. Even though first read in California, this work took on a totally different meaning to Mani when he moved from a snow-lacking region to a state where snow is in abundance." In general, works that are considered pieces of world literature tend to be interpreted in different ways by different sets of readers. In conclusion, many of Pamuk's works provide the world with ideas and understanding of his life and Turkey. Recently, due to his Nobel Prize, sales of his works increased exponentially, as many more people were eager to read his text. As a result of this increase in sales, people around the world are reading Pamuk's works. They continue to learn more about Turkey and Istanbul by doing so. Venkat Mani remarks, "A time lag between the publication, between the Turkish original, and the translation keeps getting shorter. For example, Pamuk's memoir, Istanbul, has a very short lag time and was translated into English a few months after Turkish publication. People around the world helped contribute to the translation and growth of Pamuk's works and ideas. Let's turn back to the speech. Another central theme of My Father's Suitcase is the strong father-son relationship between Pamuk and his father. One can gather from his speech that Pamuk and his father have a very trusting and close bond. Pamuk understood his father's love for literature, but never fully knew for sure to what extent. As a result, Pamuk was nervous to open the suitcase and reveal a whole new world of his father. He notes on his speech, "I couldn't open my father's suitcase because I feared this. Even worse, I couldn't even admit this myself openly. If true and great literature emerged from my father's suitcase, I would have to acknowledge that inside my father, there existed an entirely different man. This was a frightening possibility, because even at my advanced age, I wanted my father to be only my father, not a writer." Although Pamuk was afraid to explore and better comprehend his father's love for writing, he also appreciated his father's love for writing. As a result of his father's passion, Pamuk became a writer because his father, in his youth, wished to be one as well. Pamuk not only feared his father's literature, he was also angry at his father for not taking literature as seriously as himself. His father approached writing in a manner to live a happy life with his friends and family, and as a result, Pamuk was not so much angry but jealous. He envied his father's lifestyle because his father was happy, and Pamuk questioned what happiness was and his own lifestyle choices. Pamuk described his father's happiness and wasn't as comfortable in life as he was. Overall, Pamuk envied his father, as well as appreciated the bond the suitcase created between the two of them. After changing career paths, Orhan Pamuk decided to follow his father and become a writer. Writing was used by both of these men as an escape from the world inside Turkey. A huge aspect of the speech, as well as the main idea, is the idea of Pamuk's father gifting his personal library to him. The black leather suitcase contained different writings his father accumulated over time. When the average person thinks about a library, they tend to think of a huge building with books and other works of literature available for rent, along with a quiet academic community. On the contrary, a library can also be extremely small. It can consist of just one book. A library can pertain to a personal level. A personal library should consist of works that reflect on a person's passions, hobbies, interests, and a personal desire. It shows what kind of a person he or she is. Pamuk's father had an extensive personal library that inspired Pamuk. Orhan states, "My father had a good library, 1,500 volumes in all. My father built his library from his trips abroad." His father's library inspired Pamuk to create his own personal library. Pamuk would imagine that one day, in a different house, I would build my own library, an even better library, build myself a world. On his quest to begin his own personal library, he would take his father's money and buy faded, dusty, dog-eared books from Istanbul's old booksellers. In the essay, A Library of World Literature, by Nobel laureate Hermann Hesse, states, "But that the ownership of the book has its own pleasures and its own morals. It can, for example, be a pleasure and a delightful game to cleverly, tenaciously, and craftily build oneself a beautiful little library, despite tight financial conditions. For example, through the use of cheaper, popular editions and steady searching through many catalogs." Pamuk's speech resonates Hesse's idea. Pamuk was motivated to have a better library than his father, and he did not mind that the books weren't in the best condition. All that mattered was that his library was the best. In My Turkish Library by Pamuk, he writes, "My father, who was pleased to see his own son reading, was also glad to see some of his books migrating to my library, and whenever he saw one of his old books on my bookshelf, he would tease me by saying, "Ah, I see this volume has been promoted to the upper echelons." Finally, a third central idea throughout this speech is the purpose for which he writes literature. Throughout the entire speech, he talks about his reasoning behind changing from a painter to a writer. There was a vast amount of reasons why he writes the way he does. A major reason why he writes is to create a new world. Orhan says, it is a person who shuts himself up in a room, sits down at a table, and alone turns inwards, and its shadows, he builds a new world with words. One reason why he enjoyed creating new worlds is because of his willingness to express his utmost appreciation and his dissatisfaction with Istanbul. So while he attests to the cultural richness of the city, he is not hesitant to state that there might be a life richer and more exciting outside Istanbul and Turkey. In addition, he also reads books and wrote books criticizing Istanbul's failure to westernize, despite its unique geography because of its history and culture. For example, the Black Book, written by Pamuk, is an allegory for Istanbul's lost identity. In the scholarly work Tales of Crossed Destinies, the modern Turkish novel in a comparative context, Azad Sayan writes, in its broader context, Pamuk's critical engagement is with the inevitably dire consequences for his land of an imitative westernization. His multiple-centered critic plays itself out in the fortunes of Istanbul's denizens, who mirror the destiny of the nation. Because of Turkey's geography, Istanbul is a city that heavily influenced by Western and modern countries. However, Istanbul's rich history and religious culture reject Western ideas. As he further states, Istanbul is in a crisis with politically contested meanings and memories. The Nobel Prize Committee stated in its citation, the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2006 was awarded to Orhan Pamuk, who in the quest for the melancholic soul of his native city has discovered new symbols for the clash and interlacing of cultures. Perhaps even Orhan Pamuk, while writing his speech, did not realize this would become an epitome of world literature. Pamuk lists many reasons why he writes, but one of the most powerful reasons why he writes is, I write because I am angry at all of you, angry at everyone. Perhaps I write because I hope to understand why I am so very, very angry at all of you, so very, very angry at everyone. One can only question why he's so angry at everyone. Is it because Pamuk struggles to find the true meaning of happiness? Is it because he never truly understood his father's secret writing life? Pamuk may never comprehend why he is so angry, but the only way he or we as readers will ever get the answers is if he keeps on writing.